Hello po, kumusta? Welcome to my drawing studio. I'm gonna share with you a tutorial using colored pencil, and this is going to be for beginners who find it very hard to do realistic portraits, particularly realistic skin tones. But warning, this video is going to be long and boring because I decided to share with you in real time how to gradually build skin tone. So yeah, I'm using Strathmore colored pencil paper for this one. This has a nice texture, and yeah, we start with paper and pencil. The pencil that I'm using right here is the Faber-Castell Polychromos, but you can use any brand of pencils ranging from cheap to middle rangers to expensive colored pencils. It doesn't matter. It applies to all kinds of colored pencils. So as I said a while ago, medyo boring itong tutorial na to kasi nakikita nyo naman in real time ngayon ay nagbi-build tayo ng skin tone. So it's important, especially for beginners who try to learn realistic portraiture. Okay, I want to stress hard on that. This style that I'm showing you is realism. That's why it applies. All the rules here only applies if you want to achieve realistic portraits or realistic skin tone. So the step one, as you are observing right here, is the blocking in of shadows. That is the most important thing to build in order for you to create realistic skin tone. And I'm starting with this first pencil or color that I'm using right now. This is the Van Dyke Brown. So if you don't have Van Dyke Brown, any dark brown tones, it doesn't matter. One common mistake for beginners is to be so geeky or to be very particular with the specific pencil that or color that they use. You don't have to be very picky when it comes to colors. For as long as you have dark brown, that's it. You can use it to build or to block in your shadows. So speaking of blocking in of shadows, I'm starting from dark, going lighter and lighter. So dark to light, that is my technique that I use. So let's start with the basic of layering. Sharp pencils, okay, keep it sharp like this one. Sharp pencils, always sharp, especially on this stage of the initial stage of the drawing. So I hope you don't get bored because you're gonna see this video on a very slow paced process because I want you to see exactly how the skin is being built. So using this Van Dyke Brown, sharp, light pressure. It's important to keep a very light pressure on this layering stage. So this is just the first pencil. It's important because that's why I decided, or I always apply the dark to light rule, just because I want to be able to have a solid base, a sketch with solid shadows already. I need that. We need shadows. We need our darks to be really dark. Or in other words, that's is what we call contrast. The secret for realistic skin tone or realistic portraiture to seem like it is a three-dimensional image is for you to be able to build your dark shadows. That's why I'm starting with a dark and then we're going lighter. And since this is a layering technique, we are going to be using lots of colors, okay, above this first base, a shadowed base that we are building right now. With this, again, this pencil is called the Van Dyke Brown. So if you are serious in learning colored pencil, I know you don't mind this long and maybe boring video because it's just me here talking, and you see right here a very slow process. And I want you to see how slow it should be and how light the layering and the shading should be. So now I'm shading the face with, in my mind, based on my reference photo, the dark shadows are concentrated on the left side of the face and the light shadow is concentrated on the right side of the face, which you will see later on how are we gonna settle all this dark and light and medium, shading. This is what we call shading, and you have to be very knowledgeable in understanding your shadows because there are different types of shadows. You cannot just use 1 degree of darkness in your portrait, otherwise it will become not realistic, unrealistic. So building your shadows takes time. That's why this video is long, because it should take time for you to understand it. So if you are a beginner, pay attention with this drawing. Observe how I layer, how I put, all this kind of colors right here on top of each other to build realistic skin tones. So always start with the eyes before we layer or concentrate on the skin tone, because that is the goal of this tutorial. I started by drawing the eyes, which always, I haven't seen any artists, or maybe majority of artists start with eyes. By the way, these are the colors that I chose. I will name all those colors later as we proceed with our drawing. And I don't want to cut it short, and I don't want to speed up this drawing. I want it to be in real time, so you will see and you will learn very easily. Now, you can see here I'm using the black pencil for the left part, only for the left part of the face, and for some other areas where there is a very visible super dark values. So this is what we call contrast building. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to use the black. The black should only be used right here on some parts where your extreme dark shadows should be. If on your reference photo you don't see super dark values, you don't need to use the black. Okay, so be careful. You don't always want to use the black. You can just use your darkest brown, if you will, if you want to achieve all those dark shadows. But since, based on my reference, I could see that there is a very high level of contrast on this left side of the face. That's why I decided to use the black. Now I'm finishing this eye right here before we go on to the skin tone using all the colors that I will use later on for the skin tone. I will name them, but I'm testing here on the eyes if these pencils are going to be enough for the skin tone. But from what I'm observing right now, I also take advantage of finishing the eyes, so we have a gauge of how dark the skin should be, of how light some parts should be. So everyone starts with the eyes because we want to see if we get it right. Because if you don't get the eyes, if you don't get it right, and there's something wrong with the eyes, you might not want to finish the drawing because as they say, it's in the eye of the beholder. Now, we are now layering. After the black, I'm using now this pencil. This is called the raw umber. Okay, the raw umber, I layer it on some parts from dark. I layer it from the dark to mid-tone. I don't put this color on the super light values like on the right side of the face. It just goes to the mid-tone right here, the mid-tone color, to be able to build this like value formation. But I use it on the dark parts. I layer it on top of the Van Dyke brown that we use first for the drawing right here. And then this shadow right here is a little bit on a mid-tone side, and also here, that's why I'm using this raw umber. Okay, again, you were able to finish up to this stage, and that proves that you're interested with this kind of slow and boring video. Now, the third pencil, this is the Caput Mortuum. Is that how you pronounce this color? Caput Mortuum. That's strange. But I'm going to use it. This is like a reddish brown something, but I'm going to be using it mostly for the dark and the mid-tone. So I don't want to extend, because this pencil is still very dark. I don't want to extend it on the majority of the right side of the face, because again, that is how you build your values. There are dark, as you can see here on the left, and there are the lights on like the extreme part of the right side of the face, and there are some mid-tones like on the right cheek, on the side of the nose, and the chin. The majority of the chin has that very nice mid-tone. Now, before we go on to our major pencil for the skin tone, I call it major pencil because that is going to be used on the entire face. Before we use that pencil, I'm using the green now. This is particularly or specifically the emerald green. I love to have a touch of green on every colored pencil portrait or on every portrait. This is the Verdascio technique. You add a little touch of green. Michelangelo and Da Vinci is using this technique. It's called the Verdascio technique on the skin tone to make it look more realistic. Because if you try to look on your skin right now, you will see that there is a very nice little shade of green on your skin. So that's why I'm using this. I don't want to excessively use the green because it will look artificial if you put too much green. Just put just a barely sharp and low pressure green right here on the skin tone. And by the way, if you try to observe, well, before that, now I'm going to use the blue. This is a phthalo blue. Where do I use it? On the places or the parts where we use the black. That's the reason for this, is because I want to make the black more realistic, and I don't want it to look black. What do you call that? Flat. Black has the tendency to look unnatural and flat if you don't put blue. So I put blues. Sometimes I use violet for this, but I decided to put blue on the black. Now, this is the major pencil. You have to have this, the mid-tone, the middle pencil. That this is the pencil that goes from the dark shadow to the light shadow. So basically, it's used on the entire face. So it binds everything together. This color that I decided to use for the major pencil is the sanguine. Okay, so only just because this is what I saw on the reference photo. But if you don't have different colors, goes with different references. But yeah, this is the sanguine. Normally, you would use something like a very light brown with touch of red and orange, whatever color that is on your reference photo. You will see it. You will see this color. The middle color is what I call it. So you have to have this. You have to have your very darks and you have to have your middle color. It's very important because this is what, if you look from afar, you will see this color on your portrait. This is the major pencil that you will use for your skin tone. And then after this, we are going to be layering lighter colors. But this one is the one that's giving lots of impact on your drawing. So this is, when you look at your reference from afar, you will see it. You will see this tone. This is the what you will use for the entire part of the drawing right here. So again, this is sanguine, and find something on your skin tone, or rather on your set of colored pencils. Find something like this, the middle pencil. You have your darks a while ago, now you have your middles, and after this one, we're going with our light pencils. So again, this is how you do it. At this stage, it's still light pressure, no pressure, light, or you can add a little bit more pressure for some dark values, for the dark shadows, but do not push very hard. So the pressure, again, pressure is very important, especially at the layering stage. So we are still on the layering stage. Okay, now I'm adding a touch of yellowish color. So after the major pencil that we use, now I'm using this yellow color. It's called dark Naples ochre. Okay, so this has a very nice pale yellow, fleshy kind of color. So again, it doesn't have to be this one. You can search with your palette, with your set of colored pencils, and you will find something like this. Okay, now this is a very nice color to use as your lightest color. This is now the beige red. You can use seashell pink, you can use flesh, you can use dark flesh. It's important to have always have this kind of color, the fleshy color, because it binds everything together, makes, it mixes all the colors together. But we are not yet blending. This is not yet the blending stage. This is just part of the layering. But as you can see, I'm putting a little bit of pressure now, especially on the dark to mid-tone shadows, not on the light tones. Okay, just on the mid-tones, I'm putting a little bit of pressure just to be able to start mixing the colors together, but not necessarily blending, just trying to, make it appear like this is just a one color, although we have, layered several colors already. So now we are on the light stage of the drawing right here, and then let's finish the mouth first. So the lips is normally a lot more saturated compared to the skin tone. That's why I'm putting this pink, but I didn't use this pink on the skin tone. I just use it on the lips to make it a little bit redder compared to the rest of the skin tone. What is that color? That is the pink Mother Lake. Okay, so now I'm using the white for highlights. So white is a very important pencil. Don't underestimate the power of your white pencil. And you will see it right here because I'm using three pencils to blend. I have the darkest pencil right here. This is the raw umber, and then the beige red that we used a while ago, and then the white. These are my three blenders. Now we start with our blending stage right here. Now I'm using that raw umber. This is the blender that I use where we put the black a while ago, because we want to preserve the darkness of the shadows. We don't want to use the white here or the flesh here because it has the tendency to lessen the darkness of the shadow. You don't want that. You don't want your dark to be pale. You want your dark to be really dark. Okay, so the concept, as I know you are getting it, even if you are a beginner, now you are understanding the importance of values in every portrait that you can see right here. I preserve the darkness of the left side of the face, and then I maintain the lightness of the right side of the face. That is very important, because if I made it appear like this left side as light as the right side, it's not going to be the same face of the person in the reference photo, which is, this is my favorite actor, Coco Martin. This is a very famous Filipino actor. I'm sure mga Filipino dito kilalang kilala to. Wala namang hindi na. Yeah, now I'm using the beige red now to blend the mid and the light tones. Okay, not the light tone, as a little bit, just a little bit of this beige red, like on the center of the cheek, on the right side of the right cheek. I don't want to blend it with the beige red. I want to blend it with the white. Now we are blending the white, the highlighted part. We are blending it Okay, at the blending stage right here, I'm putting pressure already because here we want to be able to flatten the tooth of the paper, meaning the tooth of the paper should not be visible at this stage. So this is the burnishing or the blending stage. That's just the same thing. Do not, there are just degree of level of burnishing that we want to use for every type of pencil. Since this pencil that I'm using is Faber-Castell Polychromos, this is an oil-based colored pencil. That's why the burnishing here is not as heavy compared to the wax-based like the Prismacolor. So here, just make sure that you were able to make the tooth of the paper disappear. So you can see here applying a little bit of pressure, not as heavy as what I would usually do with Prismacolor, because this colored pencil is a little bit powdery, so it's easy to just blend all the colors so it doesn't have to be super burnished like right here. So as you can see right here, everything becomes more and more smoother as we go on with our drawing. So at this stage, if you find value with this drawing tutorial, if you were able to finish up to this stage, congratulations, because I know that you already got lots of information on drawing realistic skin tone. And if you find value with this tutorial, I will appreciate if you can comment what's on your mind. If you have a question, just feel free to comment below. And if you like this video, please like it. If you want to share it, you can share it. And if you want to support my channel, you can do it through the super thanks. The icon is below the title name of my channel. You can support me through the super thanks icon right there. Yeah, and but I appreciate if you do not skip the video, because if you are really serious of learning colored pencils, I showed you right here on this long and boring real-time tutorial video of the skin tone building using colored pencil. Again, this is for realism. Okay, realism. We're not even trying to achieve hyper-realism. Just realism. I think everyone should start learning realism with colored pencils. I know, because I know from my experience here on YouTube, lots and lots of young artists, beginners, student artists really try to achieve realistic portraiture, but couldn't, find it really hard. I understand how hard it could be for a beginner, but if you are really, have that passion and have that, urge of learning realism, I think you're not going to mind all these kind of videos where I show or we show the exact process, the slow process. So the keyword is slow, meaning if you want to learn something like this, you should not rush it. That's why I decided to make this kind of tutorial where you can see in real time the actual process of skin tone. Okay, so now the final stage is to correct and to add details. So you only add like hair on the eyebrows or the eyelashes towards the end after the blending. That is where you want to add all these details, okay, right here, because if you add it at the beginning and then you blend, everything will just look messy. Okay, so the details should be after you blend. Okay, but it's a different story with Prismacolor, which I'm gonna be sharing next time. We are going to make a portrait tutorial in real time. Let me know if you appreciate this kind of slow and long and boring video more than the sped up videos, like all those quick videos where you can see how everything are just nice and quick. But I know most of you will appreciate this slow tutorial because you will see the process exactly how it unfolds in your eyes right here. So thank you for appreciating. Hopefully you do appreciate this. And yeah, and sorry if you have to endure my funny accent, my strong Filipino Asian accent right here. And I try my best to communicate with you because I am Filipino, and my native tongue is really a strong, Tagalog Filipino accent. But yeah, I try to speak in English for other nationalities to understand what I'm talking about. Hopefully, you understand it. At sa mga Filipino naman na nanonood, na mga followers at mga manonood pa, pasensya na. And yeah, and my grammar is not perfect, but I hope I was able to communicate with all of you this kind of tutorial. Yeah, because that's the goal of my channel, to help everyone who wants to learn something with pencil portraiture. And the style of my portraiture is always realistic to hyper realistic. And we are gonna have lots and lots more tutorial coming up regarding that, because there are lots of techniques, lots of style that you can play around as a portrait artist. But I want to share you the basic. This is the basic. If you are starting, if you're a beginner, if it is your first time to hold a colored pencil, this is what you should do. Okay, but later on, as you improve, you will, because you will improve in time. You will develop your own style, you will develop your own skills, you can have your own tweaks and your own you can apply now, or when that time comes, you can apply everything that you learned, but you will develop your own style. And yeah, so this is just the basic. Okay, you can follow this one, okay, if you are a beginner. But I know in time, do not rush your improvement. You will, you know, have lots of mistakes, but you will learn to do something like this. Okay, on part 2, we are going to finish this portrait. Thank you very much for watching.